Hola y bienvenidos a Sex in Spanglish, where we empower mujeres to get in touch with their bodies, own their pleasure, and where we discuss all the cochinadas our abuelas didn't tell us about. I'm Ana Lopez, sexpert, future doctora, certified sex and life coach, proud Latina, and your go-to guide for all things sex. I'm here to help you kick vergüenza to the curb and teach you to have guilt-free sexual pleasure. Basically, I'm here to help you have mind-blowing sex without all the guilt and shame you learned growing up. Let's be real. La comunidad latina doesn't talk about sex, pero que suerte tienes because this Latina does. It is my vision to have Latinas worldwide discussing sex with one another just like they do with chisme. Así que, prepárate. I'm about to change the way you view sex para siempre. Welcome to another episode of Sex in Spanglish. I am super excited to be back and recording. If this is your first time listening, welcome, bienvenide. I'm super excited to have you here. For those of you that have been listening to me for a while and are like, where the fuck did she go? I'm going to explain, so don't worry. So my last episode was published in September of 2021. So it's been like 9 months, almost a year, that I haven't published an episode. And I kind of fell off, and here's why. So this is like where I have been and also kind of like why I've been gone. So I graduated in December of 2021 with 2 master's degrees. So September was kind of like the beginning of my last semester as a grad student. I graduated with a master's of social work and I graduated with a master's of education in human sexualities education. So super exciting. I now have 6 letters after my last name. So I am officially Ana Gabriela Lopez, MSW, MED. Super excited. So that took a lot of my attention. And then after I graduated, I ended up going to Mexico for 6 weeks. So I was there right before New Year's and all the way until like the second week of February. And so I wasn't working during that time. I didn't even really have access to Wi-Fi really. And the Wi-Fi that I did have access to was really shitty. So, I was just out there celebrating that I graduated and spending time with my family and friends out there. And then I came back and I still have a day job. So I, had to answer 7 million emails and Slack messages and get back on track and reconnected with everything that was going on there. And then, I was applying to the doctorate program and I got accepted. And so I will officially be starting the doctorate program in August. So that's super exciting. More details on that to come. And anyway, so between, the time that I came back, so like the second week of February till now, I've just been really taking some time to get back into my business, get back into the flow of things, and really decide what it is that I want to do with my business and where I want to take it, like logistically. So my ultimate vision for my business is to get la comunidad latina, specifically my mujeres latinas, talking about sex and being super comfortable talking about sex. And I was really just spending some time thinking about how I want to do that because there are like 7 million ways that I can do that. And so I've just been spending a lot of like time self-reflecting and spending a lot of time like introspectively, deciding how I want to do that because I know it's possible and I know that I can do it. And it's something that I definitely want to do. The vision has not changed at all, but really deciding on how I want to do it. So that's kind of where I've been. And for those of you that don't know, so whether you're new here or you just don't know, definitely be sure to follow me on TikTok. I've been posting a lot more videos there lately. I'm at Sex in Spanglish. And for those of you that don't know, I am like everywhere on the internet. And I think that's, I don't want to say it's a problem that I have, but I feel like my attention is in a lot of places. And so that's a lot of what this self-reflection has been about as well, as deciding where I want to put my attention. So you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and of course this podcast. everything at Sex in Spanglish. Yeah, so speaking of TikTok, I've recently been doing a series about how our childhood impacts our adulthood. And that's what this episode today is going to be about. So, a lot of times when people think of their childhood, first and foremost, they often think of like elementary school years or like, even before that. So, like infancy to like 4 years old, that kind of thing. When I speak of childhood, in this episode and the episodes to come, I am talking about like infancy all the way to like 18, 19, and even early 20s. And so that's just something to keep in mind as you're listening to these episodes. So I'm going to be talking about how our childhood has impacted our adulthood, and more specifically our sex lives. And I'm not just talking about things such as like assault and like toxic relationships that we might have been in, or like abuse of any kind. And those things can and do impact, our adult lives and our sex lives. And I think those are more obvious things, and not always, but I want to talk about the more nuanced things. So things that we have been taught about other things in our lives. And so today I'm going to be talking specifically about cleaning and the impacts that has on relaxation and our ability to relax as adults. So first I'm going to start out with the examples of like things that we may have been taught, or the way that we have been taught about cleaning. And then I'll go into how that impacts our adult lives today and how that specifically ties into our sex lives. So let's get into it. So I want you to think for a second what you were taught about cleaning. So some examples that I can think of are things such as like, we were always cleaning even if the house was clean. Like, I know my madrina was like this, que descanse en paz, but it was like something always had to be clean. It's like, your house is fucking spotless. What are you cleaning? Like, I don't understand. And I definitely understand the desire to kind of want to like upkeep the house like throughout the week versus just like one time on a Saturday morning or something like that, right? But this is super common for many households and for many women, or people socialized as women, is like constantly cleaning something. And this is like even more pressured when there are kids involved. Another example that I can think of is that, having to clean the entire house or maybe just your room or something like that before even asking for permission. Like, how many of you dared not even like ask for permission or think about asking for permission if you hadn't cleaned something, right? Another example that I can think of is anytime I said that I was bored, it's like, oh, I'll give you something to do. And that something always had to be cleaning. It was like always like dusting or some like random ass chore that no one wanted to do, and wasn't a typical chore of mine. But all of a sudden I found myself doing it because I accidentally said that I was bored out loud. Another example, which is like less related to cleaning and more related to relaxation, but it was like as soon as I sat down, it was like, oh, I got something for you to do. And I think this was less about, like, I think that honestly that this ties into resentment. Like, my mom saw me sitting down and relaxing, and she was like resentful that like I was able to relax and she wasn't, because she didn't know how, right? And we'll get into that in a little bit. But so then she was just like, okay, well, you're going to clean too. Like, basically, if I'm not happy, then no one's happy type of thing, which is super common, and parents often do this to their children. So there's just some examples that I can think of. And, especially for my mujeres out there, like hearing, Ponte a limpiar, like every fucking 5 seconds, right? You always had to be cooking. You always had to be cleaning. And not even so much what you were taught explicitly. And when I say taught explicitly, I mean like what you were told, but like what you saw modeled. Like, was your mom or your grandma or your tias always cooking and cleaning? Like, during family parties, for example, were they never just sitting down and enjoying themselves? Or were they constantly picking up or serving or things like that. Like, think back to like what you remember, family gatherings being like, and what were the mujeres in your family doing, because that is probably something that you picked up along the way. So those are some examples, and I definitely encourage you to think of more examples, specifically to your own upbringing and what you were taught, like explicitly, like what you were told, and also what you saw modeled. Now, how do all of these things impact your adult life? Well, they impact how you're able to relax. So if you were always told, or if you were always it was always modeled to you about, relaxation, you weren't really allowed to relax. If you think back to those examples that I just mentioned, right? If you're always being told to clean, or you have to clean before you go anywhere, or if you're relaxing, you're supposed to get up and then start cleaning something just because you're bored. You're not even allowed to be bored. You're not even allowed to relax, right? Relaxation is actually a skill. It's something that we learn. And if we're not allowed to do it, we're not going to learn, right? And so I'm not saying that it's bad that we teach our kids to clean up after themselves or to maintain a clean home. That is not what I'm saying at all. But what is important is the way in which we teach it, because the messages that we're sending with the examples that I've mentioned here is like, you need to earn relaxation time. You have to clean or do something quote unquote productive in order to then be able to go out and relax. And in this instance, usually it's going to the mall or hanging out with your friends or, whatever it is, right? And so we begin to make those associations as children. And then as adults, we're like, why can't I fucking relax? Like, why can't I sit down and just watch TV? I have to be doing something else. Something that I often see in my mom is that she loves soap operas, right? She actually likes the English ones. But anyway, so she'll watch soap operas all the time, right? She has like 4 that she watches like religiously, but she records them. And then she'll watch them as she's like folding laundry or doing paperwork or, any other like thing that she has to get done. And what's so interesting about it is because she thinks that like she wants to relax, right? She has the desire to relax and just veg out and watch these soap operas. But she's also like, oh no, I can't do it unless I'm doing something else productive at the same time, right? And what's even more interesting about that is that she's not even doing either one effectively. Because if you were trying to rest and you are not allowing yourself to really be in the moment, so in this example, really watching the TV and taking in everything that's going on in the show, and your attention is only like halfway there, then you're not really relaxing. She's not truly relaxing because she's on the phone, she's on Facebook, she's folding laundry, she's doing paperwork, like all these other things. Only like a part of her mind and attention is on the TV. The other part of her, attention span or attention is on the laundry and on whatever else she's doing, right? And those things aren't even being done well because she's not putting her full attention towards those things. So she's not even really being productive, right? Like the laundry is being folded super fucking slow and like not even done well. The paperwork and the people she's on the phone with can't really hear her or understand her. They don't have an effective conversation because they only have half or like a quarter of her attention, right? The paperwork that she's doing is being done really slowly and oftentimes with mistakes because her attention isn't fully there. So in reality, she's not even really being productive. And I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but what I want to demonstrate is that like we often tell ourselves like, oh, I will relax when, right? And we like fill in the blank, right? Once the house is clean, once this I don't know, this paperwork is filled out, this errand is run, like all these other things. But the thing is that we always find something else to be doing. We always find something to add to our list. And so I don't say any of this for you to be pissed off at your parents and call them and be like, what the fuck? This is your fault, blah, 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 blah. Which is many of the comments that I got on TikTok, that they were so pissed off that they wanted to talk to their parents about this. And what I want to say is that all of this was well-intentioned. This wasn't with the intention, like this wasn't taught to you. All of these things weren't taught to you with in mind, like, you know what? She's never going to be able to relax. Like, yep, that's what we're doing. Like, no. It was like their thinking was probably something like, hey, I really want them to have like a well-fed family and a clean house. And I want them to be able to do all the things, right? I want them to be empowered and to be able to do everything and not just cooking and cleaning, right? To be able to run all the errands and feel like this like superwoman, right? And so that was the intention. And I know that the impact was entirely different. That now you're like, fuck, I don't know how to relax. I can't sit down and do nothing. I understand that. But try to have some compassion, because resenting your parents and being pissed off for them not teaching you how to relax when they didn't know how to relax themselves isn't fair to you, and it's not fair to them. And it's honestly not going to resolve the issue. So just provide, just try to have some understanding for what's going on. And another thing that I want to say for many of you first-gen folks listening, our parents, if they are immigrants or our grandparents, right? They didn't have time to rest. They had shit to fucking do. They were behind. They had shit that they needed to get done. It was life or death oftentimes. And those things are hard to shed. And so they taught you because they're like, this is what is like, in essence, saving me right now. So of course I want to teach these coping mechanisms to my children. And now you are not in this life and death situation, right? Maybe you have citizenship or residency, right? You have a stable job, right? Think you have more opportunity than they had. And so it is super important for you to recognize where they were coming from when they were teaching you these things, because it was not because they resent you or they don't want you to have a good life. That's not why. And I understand the lessons that you learned are not lessons that you would have liked to learn. And they're impacting you negatively each and every day. And I get that. I understand. I live that myself. But it is super important to recognize where they were coming from. Their intention. It was well intended. And so I say all that to say, please do not use this podcast as a way to shame and hate on your parents and all these things. That is not what we're trying to do here. So how does all of this relate to sex? You're probably like, girl, you spent like 20 minutes talking about relaxation and cleaning and you haven't even mentioned sex. Like, isn't this a sex-related podcast? Like, what the fuck? And yes, I'm getting there. Don't worry. So if you were talking about relaxation, right? And our inability to relax because we weren't taught how, we weren't allowed to relax. We haven't built the skill yet. We can't put all our attention in one place, right? So if we can't relax when we're watching Netflix or, doing anything else, it doesn't matter. We're definitely not going to be able to relax when we have sex, because we're going to get to the bedroom and we're going to be like, fuck, did I wash the dishes? Like, damn, our ceiling fan's dirty. What do I got to do tomorrow? And like thinking about all these other things, right? Our mind is constantly going. And a lot of times people will tell me, I just wish I could shut off my mind. And the thing is that we can't shut off our mind. Like, that's just, our mind's just going to keep going. Even when we're sleeping, like that's what dreaming is, right? Like our mind is constantly going. But if we can focus our attention, even for a few seconds at a time, to what is going on in the present moment, then this is where the magic happens. This is where we begin to enjoy sex, to be able to relax. And so I think the solution to this is twofold. So first, in order to learn to relax, we need to practice because, again, it's a skill. And so my challenge to you this week is to spend 1 minute, set an alarm on your phone so you're not looking at it. And I want you to just lay down and do nothing. I don't want you to read. I don't want you to be on your phone. I don't want you watching TV. I don't want you listening to music. I want you to do absolutely nothing. And if you fall asleep, your alarm's going to wake you up in a minute. So don't worry. You can have your eyes closed. You can have your eyes open. It doesn't fucking matter. Your mind can wander. I just want you to practice relaxing for 1 minute. And it is probably going to be really hard. But I want you to practice doing nothing for an entire minute. And if that seems like way, way too hard, start with 30 seconds. Bare minimum, 30 seconds of doing nothing. It is going to probably be a very painful 30 seconds to a minute, whatever you decide to do. But just start doing that. Maybe 1 time a week. And do it for 4 weeks, right? Just keep practicing that. And then start increasing the amount of times you do it a week. And then start increasing, the amount of time, right? So instead of a minute, you're going to do 2 minutes or 1 minute and 30 seconds, right? Just start slowly, incrementally increasing that time and the amount of days that you're doing it. And you will learn how to relax. So that's the relaxation piece. The second piece is that you are going to practice active meditation. And I've talked about this before, and I actually think I have a podcast episode on it. So definitely go back and listen to that. But the idea here is that you are going to practice something I call active meditation. And what that is you're going to use all 5 of your senses in anything that you do. I really encourage people to do it while they're brushing their teeth, because not only are you already brushing your teeth every day, so you can be sure that you're doing it right, you can pair that habit with something that is already a habit. You're going to ensure that you're doing it every day, right? And you don't have to add another 2 minutes, like another thing to your to-do list. The idea here is make things simple. We don't want to make sex harder than it has to be, or relaxation harder than it has to be, or mindfulness harder than it has to be. So, back to active meditation. When you brush your teeth, I want you to incorporate your 5 senses. So what do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? What do you taste? And what can you feel? I think I already said feel, so I may be missing a sense. But basically, incorporate your 5 senses. So I can see my reflection in the mirror. I can see the toothpaste sudsing up on my gums and on my teeth. I can smell the mint in my toothpaste. I can smell my bathroom air freshener. I can taste the toothpaste in my mouth, right? Or the mouthwash that I'm swishing around. I can feel the vibration of my electric toothbrush, right? I can feel the fresh air coming in from my window. I can hear the birds singing outside my window. My neighbor getting ready to leave for work. I can hear the vibration of my electric toothbrush. So you see where I'm going with this. This can look any way, but really incorporate those 5 senses in those 2 minutes. And why I say 2 minutes is because the ADA, the American Dental Association, recommends that you brush your teeth for 2 minutes twice a day, so morning and night. And this is something that I do regularly because I am super adamant about gum and, I guess, dental hygiene. And so 2 minutes, you got this. You can do it. It's super simple. And the reason why this is so vital to your sex life is because if you're able to incorporate this, if you're able to be present in a moment where you are active, which is why I call it active meditation, right? You can then apply it to your sex life easier. Because when you're having sex, you're doing shit, right? Like things are happening, things are moving around. And so if you're like, oh, well, I can brush my teeth and be present in the moment, I got this, it's super easy, then you can apply that to when you're having sex. And so it starts outside of the bedroom, but then after a while, once this becomes a habit, you can then incorporate it into your sex life. And you can start practicing it in your sex life today if you want to do that. If you want to, have solo sex or partnered sex and you want to try to be like, oh, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? Whatever. By all means, go ahead and do that. But what I do recommend is that you also pair it with brushing your teeth, because that is definitely, without a doubt, something that you do every day. I mean, I hope so. If you don't, please do. Dental hygiene is super important. So start practicing that. So to kind of sum this all up, the ways that we were taught about cleaning relate to our ability to relax. A lot of us, especially those of us that have been socialized as women, lack the ability or the skill, not the ability, the skill. I rewind. The skill. We lack the skill. It is something that we can learn, something that we can master. We lack the ability we lack the skill to relax. So we are going to combat that with compassion for ourselves, compassion for our parents or our guardians, right? Our grandparents, maybe, tías, tíos, quien sea, the mujeres in our life, the mujeres that we were raised around. Compassion. Then we are going to practice the skill of relaxation, and we are going to practice the skill of active meditation. Now, if this sounds like a lot, because that was like 4 things that I just told you that we are going to do, start with compassion. That's all you got to do. Start with compassion. Because once you have compassion and can truly feel that compassion for yourself, for the way that you were raised, for your parents, for your grandparents, guardians, quien sea, the people that you are thinking about, the people that you learn these messages from, it's going to be easier for you to relax and then practice the active meditation. So I would say the first step is compassion. Once you've gotten there, or if you're already there after listening to this episode, move into the relaxation. Practice a 30 seconds to a minute, once a week. Once a week, that's all I ask, once a week. And then from there, you can gradually increase. And then if you're ready, then go to the active meditation. It doesn't have to be all at once. So that's all I have for you on this episode. The next episode, I will be covering another thing that we are taught growing up and how that impacts our sex life. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, definitely send me a message. I also wanted to announce that I now have a business line. My business line is text only, so do not call me. It's text only. If you have questions, comments, concerns, ideas, suggestions, what have you, I'm here for it. Send me a text at 669-200-9269. That's 669-200-9269. I will get back to you within 48 hours. I will see y'all on the next episode. Adios. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes are released. Join me every week to hear me talk about orgasms, STIs, birth control, and all the other cochinadas your abuela didn't tell you about. But that's not all. We'll also discuss machismo, la tía metiche, and sexual stories from other Latinas just like you. And if you're ready to start spicing up your sex life tonight, then be sure to download my free ebook, Spice It Up con la Sex Coach. You'll find the link to download it in the show notes. Do you have an idea for a podcast episode? Send me a text at 669-200-9269 and tell me all about it. And finally, let's keep in touch. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Sex in Spanglish. Be sure to follow me and let me know you heard this episode. Espero verte pronto.